All right. In this explainer, we're going to master some seriously powerful high-level vocabulary for your IELTS exam. We're going to unlock 18 essential phrases or collocations, all through a really fascinating story about an unlikely environmental hero. Okay, let's just dive right in with a huge question that, comes up all the time on the IELTS. This idea of farming versus nature. Can they actually coexist, or are they always going to be enemies? This is really the heart of the passage we're looking at today. So, in our story, we're heading to Madagascar, where this conflict is, well, it's very real. When we say relations are strained, we're using this awesome, kind of formal phrase to describe a tense, difficult relationship. It's a perfect way to kick off a problem in a writing task 2 essay. Right, so first up, let's really dig into the problem itself. We're going to look at the specific language you can use to describe this kind of environmental conflict with real precision. So here's the deal, right? On one side, you've got agriculture. It needs to expand to feed people. But on the other side, you have conservation, which is all about protecting natural spaces and the wildlife in them. And when these two goals clash, bam, you get some pretty serious environmental problems. Now, this is where the vocabulary gets really interesting. Instead of just saying something simple like animals lose their homes, you can level up and say there is habitat and biodiversity loss. Or instead of people change the land, you can use a more academic term like habitat modification. And rather than just there are too many bugs, you can talk about insect pest infestations. See how these phrases are way more precise, more academic? This is the kind of language that really impresses an examiner. And here's a perfect example of how to put it into practice. By linking habitat and biodiversity loss together, you're showing a much deeper understanding of the environmental issues at play. It's just a really powerful combo for any essay you might write about conservation, or deforestation, or even urbanization. Okay, so the situation seems pretty hopeless, right? But our story is about to introduce a very surprising hero. Let's move on and see what happens, and we'll focus on the vocabulary we can use to describe this really clever solution. Yeah, you heard that right. The solution to this big conflict isn't some new technology or a government policy. It's a creature of the night. And who are we talking about? We're talking about insectivorous bats. Now, that first part, insectivorous, it just means insect eating. It's a specific kind of scientific term that just adds that little touch of expertise to your vocabulary. And just look at this awesome language we can use to describe what these bats do. They don't just eat bugs, no way. They provide a vital pest control service. They act as biological pest suppressors. And my personal favorite, this one's so vivid, they are seen feasting on plagues of insects. This kind of language isn't just accurate, it's super engaging and descriptive. So the real key is knowing how to use this in the exam. And here's a perfect example for, say, a problem solution essay about agriculture. Using a term like biological pest suppressors, wow, that immediately signals a really high level of vocabulary and a solid grasp of the topic. Okay, so we've got our problem and we've got our hero. But how do we actually know the bats are helping? This next section is all about the science and the language we use to prove an idea is correct. So the scientists figured this out with a really clear process. First, they used state-of-the-art technology. That just means the most modern stuff they could get. Then, they studied the bats in man-made ecosystems, which is a great term for places like farms or rice fields. And finally, they proved that these bats were eating the exact pests that make the crops susceptible to attack. Okay, now you're going to want to pay close attention to this one, susceptible to. It's such a flexible alternative to vulnerable to or easily harmed by. You can use it to talk about health, economics, psychology, pretty much any IELTS topic you can think of. It is an incredibly useful phrase to have ready to go. All right, now we get to the best part of the whole story, the win-win ending. And this is where we're going to learn some really powerful collocations to describe success and cooperation. Just look at this awesome chain reaction here. The bats control the pests. That helps the farmers boost crop yields, meaning they grow more food. This, in turn, helps to ease the financial pressure on them. And in the long run, this all promotes sustainable livelihoods. That's a huge concept in development and environmental studies. So what's the end result of all this? This right here. A mutually beneficial relationship. Honestly, this is a C1 level phrase that is just pure gold for the IELTS. It's the absolute perfect way to wrap up an argument, either in your writing or speaking, showing how two totally different sides can both get a huge advantage by working together. Phew! Okay, we have covered a lot of ground, from conflict all the way to cooperation. So now let's pull all of this amazing vocabulary together in one place for a final review. And here it is, your complete collocation toolkit from this one passage. We've got 18 high-level phrases here, covering problems, solutions, research, and outcomes. I seriously recommend you pause here for a minute and just absorb these. Really think about how you could use each one of these to elevate your own arguments on the exam. So, to wrap things up, I'll leave you with a final thought to practice with. Think about other areas, maybe technology or business or even international relations. Where else can a mutually beneficial relationship be the solution to a major problem? It's a really powerful idea, and now you have the perfect language to talk about it.